Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name's Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.co.uk, maryenglish.com and UK Astrologer. Hello! Now I still have some interviews in the pipeline and they'll be coming up soon. But this week we're going to be covering the chart of a lady called Barbara Brennan, who was a healer, and I know her school of healing still runs. Now, the reason I'm using her chart is on Astro.com, they used to have a forum. I might have mentioned it before. And it was a really good forum. You know, people would post questions. There was various different segments that you could post things in, and you could ask questions of astrologers. You could ask about your own chart. You could talk about astrology in general. And it was a very well attended forum. There were the occasional idiots that used to get into arguments and get thrown off and stuff. And in the end, Astro.com had to close the forum because the software that they used to run it became obsolete, and I think it cost too much money to continue to do it. So anyway, I was reading on there what do you call it? I suppose it was a subject that somebody had started, and it was about what are the healing potentials that are in someone's chart. And the lady that had started the discussion asked about healers and healing and how would that show up in the chart, and then swiftly she was answered by somebody who gave this chart. So this is the chart that we're going to be looking at today. Barbara Brennan is her name. Now, in researching a little bit more information about her, I tried to find where she'd had her first degree. She became a Bachelor of Science in Physics in 1962. I also found hidden away in the internet some pages that were linked to from her Wikipedia page that show her all her qualifications. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the transits for the dates that she became qualified in various different things, and also to look at her life and how did she go from being what she was, which was a scientist, and she was employed by NASA, and she did some research for them for, I think it was about 5 or 6 years, to then dedicate her life to being a healer. She ran a healing practice, I believe it was in New York. So let's kick off with her chart. So I'll just read a little bit of blurb from Wikipedia. She does have a page on there. Barbara Ann Brennan, February 19th, 1939 to October the 3rd, 2022, was an American writer, spiritual healer, businesswoman and teacher working in the field of energy healing. In 2011, she was listed by the Watkins Review as the 94th most spiritually influential person in the world. Brennan received a Bachelor of Science degree in Physics in 1962 from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and 2 years later received her Master's degree in Atmospheric Physics from the same institution. She then went on to spend 6 years working at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. From 1970, she participated in courses at a number of uncredited institutions offering courses in human energy field. She completed a 2-year program in Therapeutic Counselor at the Community of the Whole Person in Washington, D.C., followed by a 3-year program in Core Energetics at the Institute for Core Energetics in New York City in 1978, and a 5-year program in Spiritual Healership at the Phoenicia Pathwork Center in Phoenicia, New York, 1979. She was strongly influenced by Eva and John Pyrakos, who founded a system for self-transformation called the Pathwork, drawing on the ideas of Wilhelm Reich and Alexander Lowen. Brennan worked with Pyrakos and became a Pathwork helper and core energetics therapist. She developed her own private healing practice in 1977 and then established a training program to teach others. She had a Ph.D. in philosophy from Greenwich University, Australia, and a D.Th. in theology from Holos University, both earned in 2001. These universities are unaccredited. So she definitely was most famous for the first book that she wrote, and then the school that she formed, which still is running. And the book was called Hands of Light, A Guide to Healing Through the Human Energy Field, and that was published in 1987. So this is somebody that devoted their life, their later life, their early life, the majority of their life, to what is considered as energetic healing, energy healing. And part of the discussion on Astro.com was, there was some bloke on there sort of ranting quite a bit. I presume he was a bloke, actually, I don't know for sure. But let's say it was a he. And he was saying, if people could cure things like cancer, then they'd be really famous and everybody would be talking about them. That isn't completely true. And so I've been working in the healing sector for 30-something years. And as a homeopath, not as an official healer. And I do know about how people get sick and also how they get better. I wouldn't classify myself as a healer, mind. I'm trained in something as a form of therapy, and the discussion was about healers. I do have access to a chart of somebody else who's a healer, but I've never had permission from them to share their chart, so I can't. I'm really sad about that because I've got all their full birth data. So let's have a look at Barbara Brennan. So she was born on Sunday the 19th of February 1939 at 7:30 a.m. Now on Astro Data Bank, the date and time of birth were via an email, anonymous email on the 28th of April 2013. The same email gave 7:12 as a birth time without any evidence or naming a source. Because it always tells you in Astro Data Bank where are the source notes, who got the data. It was actually collected by a lady called Tagliatelle. But anyway, we don't need to go into it. So it's an A-rated chart. It's not AA, it's A-rated. So nobody's got Barbara's birth certificate. So we've got a Pisces ascendant. It's the time of birth, 7:30 a.m. We've got a Pisces ascendant of 3 degrees. We've got Sun, Mercury and Pisces. So Sun, Moon and Mercury all in Pisces. The Sun is 0 degrees Pisces. The Moon is 2 degrees Pisces and Mercury is 0 degrees Pisces. So we've got somebody that's very, very new into the sign of Pisces. And because I'm using equal house, all 3 of those planets are located in the 12th house. So part of what today's podcast is about is what does the chart of a healer look like, keeping in mind that near enough anybody can be a healer if they persist at it and have a natural affinity for it and continue to do it. Some people sort of experiment with it and think, I'm no good at it, and then sort of stop and stuff. But she stayed with it for an amount of time. So even though this is somebody that's of a very well established healer, trust me, there are plenty of other people that are as adept at healing and dotted all over the place, but probably don't even have websites, let alone their information is out there for you to be able to read. Okay, so just keep that in mind, that it is possible to be a healer, not do it for a living, be particularly good at it, So I'm not going to get into that discussion, right? So now I want to quote a little bit from Managing Your Health and Wellness by Diane Kramer and what she says about having a Pisces ascendant. which is what Barbara had. So your vitality is uneven but is helped by rest. Water signs rising can be resistant to the flow of bodily energies and need stimulation from food or exercise. You are idealistic and sensitive and can be a visionary. Spiritual and creative activities soothe your emotions and aid your health. You do not handle stress well and sometimes overindulge in alcohol or drugs to relieve stress. You're prone to anxiety and mental strain, which can lower resistance and lead to illness. Now, it's I'm not saying it's a fact, because I don't know that it's a fact, but within the healing sector, it is possible that if you do it for too long, you can definitely get into a state of overwhelm. And Pisces as a sign is a sign that suffers from overwhelm. So wherever there is Pisces in your chart, keep in mind that part of your chart, as a side effect of it being Pisces, can, inverted commas, suffer from overwhelm. And if you were ever to become a healer, the doing of the healing thing probably isn't so complex, as the complexity arises from people's expectations of you, having to run a practice, having to see people every day. There'll be some people that do get better, some people that don't get better. It's a complex job to have if you have a job as a healer. And even massage therapists, but that's a form of healing. People that work in those fields can very easily get into a state of burnout. Now, I don't know if Barbara ever suffered from that. No idea whatsoever at all. But she eventually started to run a school to do it rather than to continue doing it herself. Okay, so with the Pisces ascendant being 3 degrees and the Sun and the Moon and Mercury all hidden in the 12th, we've got Jupiter in Pisces as well in the first house, and that's 11 degrees. So Jupiter's well and truly happy in the sign of Pisces. Yay! Loves it. Saturn's in Aries. I think that's got a reasonably good rulership-y thing. Not that it's a ruler, but I mean, I don't think it's detrimental or anything like that in old-fashioned astrology. And that's in the 2nd house. 3rd house, Uranus in Taurus, 14 degrees. 4th house, empty. It's mostly in the sign of Gemini. Chiron is retrograde in the 5th. And Chiron's the healer planet. 4 degrees Cancer, and Pluto's located there, 29 degrees Cancer, and that's retrograde as well. She had Neptune 22 degrees Virgo retrograde in the 7th. I do know that she was married at some point and did have a partner. I also know that she had a daughter. Her daughter is called Celia Conaway, and she practices as a Barbara Brennan healer, but doesn't mention the fact that Barbara was her mother. There's no mention on her own website, anything about that. It's just that in her book, in Barbara's book, in the acknowledgements at the beginning of the book, she credits and says thank you to her daughter and gives her daughter's name. So that's just to let you know. She also, what did I say there was? Sorry. Ooh, brain. She's called Celia, also helps run the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. But she doesn't advertise on there that Barbara Brennan was her mother. Isn't that interesting? But all that secrecy, I was just sort of thinking, we've got 3 planets in the 12th house, which probably made her family swear that they were never going to reveal too many details about her. How funny. Right. We've got Neptune retrograde in Virgo in the 7th, 8th house empty. 9th house, we've got the North Node, which is 11 degrees Scorpio. So this is your spiritual purpose, and it's located in the 9th. And the 9th house is, as you know, the house of spirituality, long distance, travel, further education, etc. And she finished her life, so the latter half of her life was as a teacher, because she ran the school. Maybe other people helped her run it, but That's what she did. 10th house, we've got Mars in Sagittarius conjunct the MC. So the MC is 14 degrees, I think, yeah. And Mars is 12 degrees. And then we've got Venus in the 11th in the sign of Capricorn. And the chart shapes a sort of splishy splashy thing. Everything's all around the circle. I don't think we can make an argument for anything other than an uneven sort of splash thing. She does have a grand trine in Earth, which is pretty nice because that gave her practical abilities, which isn't something that Pisces generally suffers from. Practicality, that's not on their chosen list of attributes. No. What else do we need to consider? So with a Pisces ascendant, the chart ruler is Neptune. Neptune's located in the 7th. I don't know what happened about her husband or the father of her daughter. Her daughter has a different name to her, and when she credits her in the book, she calls her Miss Celia Conway. So they haven't got the same surnames, but Barbara Brennan, as far as I know, is her maiden name, because I did go searching on the university website of University of Wisconsin, and I found a yearbook for 1962 when she was a senior, and a photograph of her. So they had they'd taken individual pictures of each of the people that were senior that year. So senior, I believe, in America isn't when you graduate. It's your last year before you graduate. But there's a rather cute picture of her, and which I will put in the show notes if you go over to where that is located, which is astromarylibsyn.com. astromarylibsyn.com. So we've got, there's the chart, okay? Now we're going to look at some transits, and we're going to, because we're asking the rhetorical question, why did she go from having this degree in science and NASA and all the rest of it? I'm not asking about, because you can read up about how she got inspired and all the rest of it. I just want to know astrologically what might have been the triggers for her to change direction of her life and then to end up running the school. Now I've got a list of her qualifications, which again I'll probably just copy and paste them onto the show notes, but she got the Bachelor of Science in Physics in 1962, and I tried to find what time of year you're likely to qualify when you've got a degree in America. And I think there's 2 months of the year it's most likely to happen, May and not October. But since I found in their sort of Illumini, is that what it's called, notebook, the photograph of her being a senior in October 1962, I've used the month October for the transits just to see what's going on for her. So Jupiter is, now she's having a Jupiter return, because in 1962 Jupiter is returning in her chart. And I would have thought if you're completing a number of years worth of study and then Jupiter returns and smacks onto your ascending, because in October 1962 Jupiter is 4 degrees Pisces. I would have thought that would be a rather nice transit, because Jupiter's the planet of studying and learning and knowledde and blah, 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 blah. Chiron's retrograde, 7 degrees Pisces. I don't know what else went on for there. I haven't got all of her life history. It's quite hidden, actually. The information about it's quite limited is the wrong word, but it's edited. Is that the right word? Now, if we're thinking about studying, we also need to look at the 9th house, and transiting Neptune in 1962 is now 11 degrees into the sign of Scorpio, and her north node is 11 degrees Scorpio. So I would say that was the beginning of her. Now she's qualified and she's got a Bachelor of Science. That's she probably feels that she's, you know, when you've got a qualification, sometimes you can feel like, oh, I'm on my path. Okay, so I thought the transits for her Bachelor of Science were pretty nice. Now, when she gets her Master of Science in Atmospheric Physics in 1964, I've used October again. And I won't share that chart because otherwise the show notes is going to be stuffed with charts, but I'm just giving you the information. Saturn is now 29 degrees Aquarius retrograde. What else is different from the previous? Neptune's shifted. The sun is in Libra, obviously, because it's the time of year. Pluto and Uranus are now pretty much conjunct, I think. Pluto and Uranus, yeah, they're only 2 degrees apart. I don't think they're retrograding. Nope. They're transiting through her 7th house and are getting nearer to her natal Neptune, which is in her 7th. Venus is in the sun. Venus and Mars are in the sign of Leo, and transiting Jupiter is now in Taurus. They're not really hitting much, but in October of that year, Chiron is pretty much conjunct to her natal Jupiter. Chiron is 15 degrees and her natal Jupiter is 11, so it's only 4 degrees apart. Now, according to this list of qualifications I got for her, she gained a Therapeutic Counselor, Community of the Whole Person, Washington. So that was a graduate of a 2-year training program. So nothing transit-wise happens until 1975. So she also became a, massage therapist, and from the Luther Rice College in Alexandria, Virginia. So I've looked at, again, October, and I'm now doing 1975. Neptune, transiting Neptune, is now conjunct to her MC. I think Neptune's 9 degrees and the MC's 14 degrees into the sign of Saggy. So I would have thought that's because we need to keep an eye on Neptune when we're looking at a Pisces person, and her natal Neptune's Virgo. So I don't think she's got an aspect between her Sun and her Neptune. No, she doesn't. She's got a lot of conjunctions, and her Sun, her Moon and her Mercury, all they do is conjunct. They don't talk to anything else in her chart. Oh, I didn't notice that earlier. Yeah, the Sun, Moon and Mercury don't make any aspects other than in conjuncts. Ooh, they're quite singleton planets then. And then we get to Venus, and that makes a square to Saturn, a sextile to Jupiter, and a trine to Uranus and Neptune. So everything from Venus onwards, then aspects. Mars has probably got the most amount of aspects, Venus and Mars, which are located in the 10th and 11th house. And she's got no air in her chart at all. 0, which is amazing because she did all those qualifications. Haha. Because air's supposed to govern things like knowledge and discussion, etc. And I did read once a long time ago, the lady who wrote the book said that people that don't have air in their chart, and at that point in time I personally knew somebody who had millions of qualifications, but if they don't have air in their chart, will sometimes go overboard trying to learn things. I thought that was interesting. But fire, air, earth, water, she's got no air planets. 0, 0, 0. Fire, she's got earth, she's got water, zillions, but nothing in air. Interesting. So that's 1975. And then the next qualification is a core energetics therapist, and that's in 1978. Now, when she finishes that was a 3-year training program. That's based in New York as well. Uranus is conjunct her natal north node, and transiting Neptune hasn't moved that much. It won't in 3 years. Transiting Neptune is now 15. MC is 14 degrees. So transiting Neptune is now exactly conjunct to her MC. So if we're talking about psychic planets, the psychic planet is now sandwiched onto her MC and her natal Mars in the 10th house of career. Transiting Uranus is conjunct to the natal north node, along with a bit of Mars there, but we don't know exact date that she got a qualification. Saturn's now in Virgo, so that's in opposition to her sun sign, and Pluto's in Libra, which is doing near enough nothing. Now, in 1979, she became the graduate of, so she's done 5 years training now in spiritual helpership, and that's in the Phoenicia Pathwork Centre in Phoenicia in New York. And transits, we've got Neptune still hovering around her MC as it's still conjunct Neptune 17, so only moved a teeny bit. But transiting Saturn, which was opposition the Pisces things, is now transiting Saturn is 19 degrees and it's conjunct her natal Neptune, which is 22 degrees. So she's getting quite a lot of activations to the North Node, the MC, and her natal Neptune. There's nothing going on with her natal Saturn. We've got a bunch of planets that are opposite it, but that's not doing anything. And Uranus is still hovering around in the sign of Scorpio. Now, there's a bit of a gap in her qualifications. She spent loads of time studying. She then becomes a Doctor of Theology in 2001 from the Holos University in Missouri. And again, I've used the beginning of October, but I've done the year, which is 2001. And when before we've had transiting Neptune on her MC, now in 2001 we've got transiting Pluto on her MC. Uranus is in the sign of Aquarius, and so is Neptune transiting, that is, and transiting Jupiter's not really on anything, but the major transit for her is now Pluto's on her MC. According to Wikipedia, in 1982 she closed her private practice in New York City. So from my estimation, she's done Therapeutic Counselor, Massage Therapist, Core Energetics Therapist, Senior Helper. She finishes all those qualifications in 79 and then stops her private practice in 82. So from my maths, that only appears to be 3 years that she actually was working in private practice. She says there's a PDF on the website, Barbara Brennan Healing website, that she said, one day in New York City, I checked with my receptionist to schedule an appointment with a client who really needed to see me the next week. My calendar was completely booked for the entire next year. People were dying before they could get to me. That was it for me. I decided not to take any new clients, finish out the year and focus only on teaching healing after that. So this is what she's giving as a reason for not doing it anymore. She also says that one of my favourite activities that my little daughter Celia was to paint together. I couldn't figure out what to paint, so I painted the auras I was seeing. These paintings became the models for the artist who painted the pictures for Hands of Light. In the beginning, I didn't know I was writing a book, but then after many papers, I realised I could put them into a book. It was about 15 years worth of information I had to compile. Each time I wrote, I would realise I had more to put to paper. I offered my manuscript as a textbook for the classes I was teaching. It was a good process that helped me get the information clearer. I took the manuscript to publishers and 12 publishers refused to publish it. So I took my entire life savings of $50,000 and published Hands of Light myself. When it was done, I was a single mother with less than $1,000 to my name. I made 1,000 copies and sold each one for $50 to get my money back. A couple of stores took a few and resold them for $90 each. In 3 months, they were gone and I had my savings back. I published 3,000 more. That sounds a lot of money, $50. I published 3,000 more. They're those hard-covered ones with the picture on the 7th level close on the cover. We have a few left. A friend of mine, Jason Schulman, who had a publishing company, told me I should take my book to publishers. I said that 12 had refused it, he said, but now they can see what it is, so I did. Now, the book Hands of Light, because she'd self-published it and then Bantam Books took it on, they published it on the 1st of February 1990, so I'm going to share that chart as well. The chart for the transits of the book being published are a little bit on the crazy side, because on the 1st of February 1990, Mars, Uranus, Neptune, Mercury, Saturn and Venus are all in the sign of Capricorn in her 11th house, where she natally has her natal Venus in Capricorn 14 degrees. And the transiting Venus is retrograde at 22 degrees. The Sun's in Aquarius, which is transiting through her 12th house, and the Moon is in Saturn, which is exactly conjunct her natal Saturn in the 2nd. So that was a good business thing to do, but it's a bit of a bonkers chart because there's so much that's in Capricorn. 6 planets in Capricorn. Pluto's still in Scorpio, it hasn't shifted. So she carries on and runs the school, and various different things happen to her, and then she unfortunately passes away. And the only thing you'll find anywhere on the internet about her passing is the quote from the school on their Facebook page and their school page to say that she died early in the morning. And I will share that chart as well. I couldn't find what she died of. I couldn't find the exact time that she passed. I even went to it's called the Wayback Machine, and checked her website because I found some early information about there, but no idea what she died from. But on that date, 3rd of October 2022, Neptune is retrograding the sign of Pisces, not really near anything in her charts, 23 degrees. So leading up to her dying, so Neptune went into Pisces in the year April 2011. So it would have spent a considerable amount of time transiting through past her sun sign, past her moon sign, past her Mercury. So I expect those last few years of her life were probably helped because Neptune's in its natural happy home. But anyway, the day that she dies, Neptune's retrograde. Saturn is transiting 18 degrees Aquarius. Transiting Mercury is slap bang on her natal Neptune. So transiting Mercury is 24 degrees Virgo and her natal Neptune is 22 degrees. The Sun and Venus are in Libra. She doesn't have anything in those signs. And the Moon is in the sign of Capricorn and her natal Venus is in Capricorn. So I would say that the planet that helped her pass over would have been the Moon on her Venus, because she was a very loved individual. She was very well respected. She ran that school for a hell of a long time and had thousands of students graduate from there. Can't find anything on the internet negative about her, which can happen to people that have that type of job. And then Uranus, transiting Uranus is 18 degrees retrograde and her natal Uranus is 14, so she'd already had her Uranus return, so she was in her 80s when she passed, so that's a pretty fair age. Transiting Jupiter is retrograde in Aries and it's 2 degrees and she doesn't have anything in those signs. Transiting Pluto's in Capricorn, but it's nowhere near her Venus, so that I think the planet that took her over would have been the Moon on the Venus, because I don't know exactly what time of day she died. All it says is that she died the day before, and that was posted on the 4th of October, and she died on the 3rd. So going back to the fact that she at some point became a healer, she seemed to have enjoyed the teaching side of it more. She experienced the actual side of it and then gave up because she said there were too many people that needed her and she couldn't see them all. So fair enough, she decided to teach. But I think it's the progression. What planet would I say did it? I personally think it's the outer planets, Pluto, Uranus and Neptune, had the most oomph in her chart. And Neptune, obviously, because it's the ruler to her chart anyway, so that's the one that should be most affected by. And why does anybody become a healer? It's a rhetorical question, isn't it? Why would anybody want to be a healer? It's not an easy job. So today we've been discussing the chart of Barbara Brennan, who ran the Barbara Bennett School of Healing. We are going to be having more guests on the podcast when everything's arranged and I've got them all lined up. And if you'd like to learn astrology with me, I still teach, and there are 6 lessons in introduction, 6 lessons in next steps. I also offer one-on-one supervision for people that are already qualified or want to talk about their practice, or you want some assistance in your practice and how it's running, and simply if you need a reading, then all you need to do is whiz over to maryenglish.com, and there's lots of info on there, or you can email me, mary@maryenglish.co.uk, and I hope you have a fab week. Bye bye now.